Okay guys, today's repair is on this old car, Model T, Model A, I don't know the difference. Anyways, just had a new engine put in this, and when you let off the gas, it was idling up, and when you shut it off, it was backfiring, and the throttle was being held, it wouldn't return back to normal. It would, see this, your idle set screw right there? When you would let off the gas, it would hold open like that. It should be there, okay? And it was holding open like this. So I traced the linkage back from here to here, oiled that point right there. I just love the spark plug wires on these old things. It's a piece of copper that never goes bad. Look at that. Never have to replace your spark plug wires. They're copper strips. I just love these old cars. Gravity fed, so your fuel pump never goes out. But anyways, when we come around here, and this linkage was at first I thought being held open by this little rod right here, right there. You can see it or not, that little rod right here is pushing this throttle linkage open, which is pushing it to here. This right here is your fast idle when you start it. Some kid will never figure out how to start it. Okay, here's your choke, and this right here is your fast idle right here. And this right here is your ignition timing. This is your fast idle. It's not your throttle. Okay, and your starter button is right there, and your throttle button is throttles right here, and it wasn't returning to normal. Okay, and you gotta love these batteries. 6-volt battery, and look at this, positive ground right there. Positive goes to ground, negative goes to starter. What I found, rumble seats, let your kids sit back here in the back. Who needs a convertible, right? So the mechanic that installed this engine, who specializes in these old cars, his answer was to put a spring from here back to here. Well, number one, there's nowhere for me to hook a spring. There's just nowhere. And to help pull this. But I'm like, this isn't right. This car has not had a spring. It's older than I am, and it's never had a spring. Why should it have a spring? And I get looking to this rod back here and see the gap there. See how that should be straight, and it's not. So what I did was I took this pry bar and I stuck this pry bar right here, just like this. Okay, just like this, and I pushed this and bent it back until I saw that is now closed, and it's now fixed. It didn't need a new spring, no return spring. This thing is older and it never had a return spring. These throttle linkages are the coolest thing. You just pull on them and they snap off. And at first I thought there was wear in these, but isn't that cool? I just love the way they used to make things. So now we no longer have a gap. You're gonna set your idle right here. So my guess is when he was taking this engine out, he bent this rod, and his answer was to put a spring there to pull it down, which doesn't fix the problem. Oh, and always make sure that you grease your water pump. But it is so simple. Gravity fed, here's your fuel filter. No air filter, they didn't have air filters back then. So to start the thing, this is why we don't bother. We leave the keys in it because no kid will ever figure out how to start this thing. So The first thing you do is you got to push the clutch in. Okay, make sure we're in neutral. We're going to advance the fast idle, and then we're going to pull the choke back, and see it's spring loaded, so you got to hold it back, and then we are going to push the starter button right here. Then this is the throttle. So oh, see, this is why we don't worry about kids stealing it. I didn't have it turned on. Now it's probably flooded. I let off the clutch, or the choke. The reason that the starter is on the floor and you got to have this fast idle is because you can't put your foot so you can't push the starter button and hold your foot on the gas at the same time, so you got to be able to operate your fast idle up here, see? And then there's your gas. Okay, it's got to be down, that's off, that's on, gravity fed. Don't go up a steep hill or you won't be able to start it. There we go. There we go. We got her going. Make sure we're in neutral. There we go. Make sure it doesn't die, because I let off the choke. I hate to imagine what it would be like starting this thing in the winter time. So there we go. Let's see. And this right here is your spark advance. Right here. And I really don't know what that does. Something flowing in there. Okay, make sure our choke is in. All right, so at least we got an amp gauge. It's only got 9,000 miles on it. And there's our gas gauge. But I think I got an exhaust leak. Is that a rod bearing or an exhaust leak? But I think it's coming out of right here. So let's take it for a drive. So I've got it up to 13 mile an hour. I'm having a hard time figuring the gears out. So I'm having a hard time figuring the gears out. I'm in third gear. I got it almost up to 20 mile an hour now. Oh no, it's got a terrible shimmy to it.
Can you pull up in front of our house again so she can make it?
I'm just not used to these manual brakes. Oh man. Okay, not only do you got to know how to shift a manual, but you got to know how to double clutch. And you better hit your shift points right. There's not enough leg room in here. Oh man, we're up to 20 mile an hour, guys, in third gear. We're going to go for fourth here in a minute. You know what's wild about these old cars? Is there's no lock on the driver's door. The lock is on the passenger side because it's not safe to get in the driver's side because you might hit one of the levers, I guess. I don't know, but there's the lock. The other neat thing is you don't have to wear a seatbelt. There's no seatbelts in this thing. They can't write me a ticket for not having a seatbelt. And what about that? There's no seatbelts. And here's your steps. Step there and there to get in the rumble seat. So we got a problem here. We've got some flat spots, and it starts shimmying at about 25 mile an hour. So I get some time in a little bit. I'm going to pull the spare tires off and put on there. Back at you, I can get the tires a little bit fast.